Alright, see here. We are live. Cool. Dun, 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 dun. Question is, guys, I'm getting set up here. I'm just hopping on. Give me just about 2 minutes here. We'll get rolling. Everybody that's in here so far, we got, let's see, got one quit. Two. Is everyone trading NQ and ES, or are you guys looking for? Are you guys looking for other assets? Okay, let's see what we got going on here in this market. So, guys, anybody that's new to my channel, everything that I trade is going to be derived off of um, usually the 4 hour time frame. I'm a big 4 hour fan. Definitely will use some daily levels. They're very, very obvious. Fair value gaps and order blocks on the daily. Definitely will look to use those. But obviously, to trade intraday, there's not always something on the daily. So usually the 4 hour is my go-to for not only potential entries, but also targets, especially targets. So what I essentially want to see price do to keep it very, very simple. Okay, let's go to the 1 hour so that you can see my little 4 hour indicator right here. See that? So if I'm long biased, if I'm bullish biased, and say I want these two draws on liquidity to get taken during this session, right? And say that I want to look for a trade like this into these highs, right? I want to use the 4 hour candle, which we just started 27 minutes ago. I want to use the 4 hour candles how it's forming to help me see that not only am I trading in the right direction, but also that the market is gearing up to expand. Okay. So if if these are my draws on liquidity up here, just total example before we get started. Obviously, what do I need the 4-hour candle to look like? Well, I need at least some sort of bullish 4-hour candle. Maybe it. Let's get rid of these X's. So if that's my 4-hour start, say I need at least some kind of candle like that to hit those targets. Where do I want to be long at in this example? I want to be long on. I want to know where price is likely to make this bottom. Now, not saying I'm going to buy the bottom, because that's obviously very risky. Usually, I will buy somewhere kind of in here somewhere, right? After I get some confirmation that it's actually reversing. But what I'm really looking for is what P array is this going to take place in? And when I see price open the 4-hour here, and then I want to see something impulsive. And what is that impulsivity showing me? That impulsivity is showing me that they are liquidating people out of the market and it's gearing up to then send it in the opposite direction, right? The manipulation side of the wheel. For me at least, I struggled for a long time in my trading for timing the market. I would get the draw and liquidity right. I would get good targets, um, good trades. My entries weren't bad, but the market wasn't ready to move, and I would get stopped out, and then it would hit, or I would get stopped out and then re-enter, and then it would hit, and then I wouldn't profit as much that day. This is a way that I have learned to kind of help me strategize and timing the market. If the market is going to deliver up here to these highs, in my opinion, I want to see some sort of manipulation happen. All right. So now on the 4-hour, unfortunately on NQ, I don't have any levels in this area because of this deep wick right here. But yes, I do have a 4-hour gap that it's technically in. So that's great. So let's go ahead and work that 4-hour out. And then another thing that I like to use is the Dilling range. And what I'm just defining, I'm not defining what ICT define. Shout out ICT, got to pay homage. What ICT defines as your Dilling range. You would have a different Dilling range for each time frame. Not saying you got to draw every one, but the time frame you're kind of analyzing, you want to draw. You want consistent colored candles, meaning all up or all down candles. I'm going to find the swing high and the swing low, and then your equilibrium. So if I'm bullish here, I would want to see price obviously hold the 4-hour gap, maybe throw a wick into this equilibrium. But if it starts retreating under this, then um, this is to me it has a high likelihood of inversing. All right, so unfortunately, like I mentioned, we don't have that same gap on ES. I really like most of the time to do my buying and selling my orders in a fair value gap or order block or point of interest that both ES and NQ have in common. Now, obviously, they won't be the same size ever, but made off the same candle. Um, and that's really not as hard to have as it may sound. Most of the time, especially on these higher time frames, the fair value gaps are like that. But like I said, because of this wick here, we obviously don't have anything on the 4-hour on NQ. Now, also on NQ, it's a little funky because if you look in this area and here, we didn't have this down close candle here like we did on ES. So the dealing range on NQ is technically this on the 4 hour, which I don't think, equilibrium would be roughly here. I wouldn't want to wait for that thing to tap. So because it's so deep, if it goes that deep, then these draws on liquidity are becoming less and less likely to hit. So unfortunately, I don't really have what I would consider to be a very clean dealing range on NQ, and unfortunately, I don't really have a very clean point of interest on the high time frame like I like to have on NQ, but I do have it on ES. So let's look at ES here. Um, Kind of dive into it. So what do I see off the rip? Now, don't let this candle that we're on currently right here, don't let this trick you. Okay. This has only been moving for 24 minutes. So yes, we're on the 4 hour chart, but this is basically just like a 30-minute candle. Okay. So just you have to keep that in mind. You don't want to give that the shape of that candle as much weight as the previous closed candles. So what I like off the top is we have now swept the previous 4 hour low. So what does that mean? All right, that's a H4, or let's say previous H4 low. All right, so what is that giving? That's giving us a sweep on liquidity. Look at what that looks like on the 1 hour here. Clean this up just a bit. So we're basically opening. You see my indicator for the 4 hour open is basically overlapping where that low was. Do this like this. That would be 8 p.m. Why would that? Technically, oh no, I'm sorry, guys. It would be this candle here. All right, so there's our previous 4 hour low, and then this is 2 4 hour lows ago. So this would actually be what people would deem their Asia low. So this is the 8 p.m. 1 hour candle. So I would deem that to be our Asia low. So let's get that locked in there. Let's kind of come back to NQ for just a second. Let's make sure that it doesn't have anything too different than that. All right, so here's our Asia low. So that looks the same. I'm going to make the line dotted, and that to me is just representing that we've already swept it. Solid line means unswept, dotted line swept. And now on ES, on this lower time frame, on this 1 hour, we also have a fresh 1 hour fair value gap. So just to let you guys know, I don't trade London necessarily every night, because obviously I'm in Florida, United States, so this is 2 o'clock in the morning. So I don't trade it every night, but I do stay up uh, usually a little late, and I will look at the market about an hour or 30 minutes or so before London opens. And if I see the opportunity for my type of setup to play out, then I'll hop on and start my stream. Otherwise, I usually do New York AM as often as I can. All right, so back here to on NQ. Here is our previous. Get this previous H4 low. Okay, so we have that. Now, the unfortunate part, and you guys should be seeing this right now, is we again don't have the same P array on NQ that we have here on ES. right? Ideally, we would have that same 1 hour right here, and we would say price open lower, giving us that 4-hour open, wick lower, tap a point of interest, right? And then as it starts to reverse, and it would then flip the candle bullish and give us that expansion. That would be kind of how I would try to target this trade. But because we don't have that 1 hour, I would then have to go down. So let's see what the 30-minute is having. So actually, this is a bit concerning for longs now that I'm looking at this. So here is the closest, this is the highest time frame gap that I can find in this general area of price. So that is a 30-minute FEG there. And now, as you can see on that last candle, we've technically inversed this now. So that's not really looking that good for longs, and it's already pushed back into the IFEG, and it, for now at least, is rejecting. So we definitely need to watch that. Um, as far as, and it's very interesting because you can see that this FEG held price very well here and actually held the right at the 50%, which is your consequent encroachment um, of that FEG. All right. So we definitely need to keep an eye on this M30. I don't see what it would be potentially trying to tap lower. I mean, I do have some 1 hour fair value gaps here, but that's already been tapped twice there. Got a little one here, been tapped short. Uh, not yet. I'm open to it though. So I don't see, and to kind of go with uh, Illuminator to give you a little confidence in the short side. These fair value gaps that we do have on the 1 hour on NQ, they've already been tapped, right? So to me, fair value gaps that have already been tapped, I'm automatically giving less weight to. The problem with shorts that I see personally is I just don't know what I would target. I would, I really want to target some swing point. I mean, you have some hourly lows in here that you could potentially, 100% use as your target. This is a relative equal low. Actually, this is actually pretty interesting right here, guys. We have a 1 hour relative equal low. We can even mark this as a relative equal low, and that's previous day low right on top of it. So REL relative equal low, PDL previous day low. So that would be interesting, but that's a pretty long way away for where we are right now. All right, I'm gonna flip back over here to ES. Again, guys, I'm just kind of just sitting down at the charts now. Um, so you're gonna have to uh, be patient with me as I kind of just brainstorm out what I'm seeing here. So we did sweep the Asia low, but it doesn't look like price is really wanting to stop. So that 30-minute fair value gap is actually inside this hourly right here. So it hasn't even gotten to that on ES yet. So what is that telling me? Think about it, right? Like the same 30-minute off the same candle over here. Where was that? Make sure it's the same candle before. Yep, same candle, 30-minute, 30-minute. ES hasn't even tapped it yet, whereas NQ has already IFEG'd it. So what is that telling me? In this moment, I would lean short. If I was going short today, I would be leaning to NQ, and long today, I would be not today for this session. I would be leaning to ES, unless something else changed my mind closer to my time of entry. I would like to see if ES has these. Yeah, it kinda does. See, there's its previous day low. I get it does technically. This is the low that I'm calling a relative equal low to this. Structure's a little different, but honestly, what I see better is kind of forget previous day low over here and potentially use these 2 hourly. So that would be your 11 PM, so that'd be your Asia, and then this is 6 AM. You'd call that London low from yesterday. So I would probably just call to not get it confused with today's London and Asia. I would probably just call this like minor sell side, and then we could mark this as a relatively low. So I guess, and then honestly, you got 10 AM, you got New York AM low right here. You definitely do have some uh Illuminator. You're not incorrect, my man. You definitely have some targets there. Kind of all. What I love to see, guys, is like a big stack of lows on the 1 hour, or if it's on the 4 hour, I really love it. Um, so honestly, I'm liking the stacked lows on ES, but I'm also really liking these two stacked highs on both indices right here. So not completely sold on either direction yet as it sits this second. So what do I want to see off of this? If I want to remain bullish bias, see, we don't even have a 15 that NQ is holding. No, I take that back. It is holding this, which has already been tapped twice, 3 times now. We can mark this and just see if this ends up holding again. I mean, I don't want to put it past NQ. We all know NQ can do some crazy things when it really wants to. But anyway, so what do I want to see here? Okay. If I want to go long towards these highs, I want to see this here's my 4 hour open. We have now opened lower. We're tapping an untapped PD array, check. Opening in the opposite way as our draw on liquidity, check. Are we getting a liquidity sweep? Yes. We're sweeping Asia low and previous 4 hour low. Actually, basically 2 4 hour lows we're sweeping right now. Check, check. That's, I mean, that to me, that looks good. Now that's only about half of it, right? There's a To actually get in a trade, there are confirmations on this thing pushing back up and starting to roll back over to the upside for us to actually get involved. But the thesis is there for ES. I just don't really love NQ. If NQ would have held this 30-minute, then I would be very long biased. I'll tell y'all that. Maybe it didn't hold it because this is, 4 hour open inside that fair value gap. Um, and it's sweeping this low. It wanted this low before it would pop back up, and that kind of forced us to inverse the 30-minute. So I don't think longs are out. I do, again, going real quick one more time back um, to the 1 hour here. I don't mind shorts because, like I said, if you look at the 1 hour here with if we look at ES, you have your previous day low right here. You have a relative equal right beside it. And then you have here and here, which is another relative equal low. And then you got New York AM low. This is New York AM low here. This is London low, Asia low, previous day low. And, that's a lot of relative equal lows right in this one spot. For me, that's very attractive to use as a liquidity target for a trade. The only thing I dislike is we have a lot of running to do to get there. For me, I like to look at now it doesn't always work like this, but what I've found is try to think of liquidity kind of like um, a gas in your car, gas in a vehicle. If I look at my chart on the 4 hour or the 1 hour and I mark my liquidity targets in both directions, right? Like this. Then I ask myself, which one it does think about it like this sometimes. All right, here's my 4 hour open. Is it more likely the 4 hour is going to deliver down here 51 points, 51 and a half points, or this is 25 and a half points? And even up here is 35. So I have less room to cover to get here. Now, again, that doesn't always mean that, but you do need to keep that in the back of your mind when looking at this much empty space. You got no real uh, swing lows that you could scale, bid short from up here and target down into all these lows. I would really like it better if you had some structure in here where you could have some scale outs and you weren't sitting here waiting for ES to drop 50 points just to, finish your trade. Because this 4 hour candle may not deliver that many points. And then you're, kind of waiting, and then you're starting a new 4 hour candle. So, Illuminator, I'm not sold completely on the shorts. No, not yet. We're gonna get it popping quick. I like this response off the 15 so far. It again it's holding the 50% line, um, which is consequent encroachment. We do have I would go ahead and probably mark this on my chart for visuals as my sweep on liquidity there. Can do that over here. There's our sweep. Got actually a doubles like we were just talking about. Um, Also in 7. So now that I would obviously be leaning towards ES for longs, just based on one, it's cleaner to me, meaning I have the 1 hour, the highest time frame point of interest that I see price tapping on either chart. I like that much better. I do also like this, guys. If you look underneath this 1 hour, what do you see? I have no points of interest in any of this price action. Um, so if this does start to trend higher, then I believe we could have a pretty high confidence in this getting hit up here, because there's not really anything that I see in this price leg that this would want to go make a lower high and then deliver to, and then maybe do something like this and then go down to the close. But we'll see. Fortunately, don't control the market. So we have actually going to have this kind of stuff. So this is going to be a little painful to read. So this would be our 1 hour dealing range of our current range. I'm getting that from swing high to swing low, consecutive down close candles. Here's our equilibrium. So the PD arrays that I'm most that I would be looking for are the bearish PD arrays in the um, premium of the dealing range. So this, to me, is the fair value gap that we really care about. Question becomes, you know, do we really wait all the way until a 1 hour goes IFEG? And the answer is it kind of depends, right? We do have like an overlapping 30 in that same area that maybe we could take um, slightly lower time frame, but I think that's what we're going to want to see. Let's go back over here to ES and get our dealing range of this of its current range. So there is that. And then we would only have one fair value gap over here, which is nice to me. And it would be right here. So that is this gap. That's the same candle. So that's the one I would care about because ES and NQ have this fair value gap on the same candle and it's in the premium of the range. Bearish candles in the premium, bullish candles in the discount. That's where my eyes are going to naturally be drawn to. I'm less worried about what it does with this fair value gap for that reason. Because one, ES doesn't have it. Doesn't mean I ignore it, but I would not enter long off of just IFE to this first gap, just because of where it is and because it's not the fair value gap that they both have. But we can go. We do need a market just to make sure we don't forget. So mark that out there, and then we can also have a quick kind of chat on how I'm using the equilibrium on the dealing range. So swing high, swing low, consecutive candles of the same, consecutive bullish or consecutive bearish candles. So have bearish candles here. Here's my 50%. What do I actually want to see at that 50%? Well, yes, I'm also using this and I want obviously IFEGs for my entry model. But a lot of the times you can use the equilibrium as part of kind of building clues to your bias. Not really your bias, but your trade idea. Um, so if this starts grinding higher, and I see it, this is the 1 hour chart. So maybe at the 15-minute, for example, just using an example here, I see the 15-minute get above the equilibrium price, right, and start to hold it as support, right? That is showing me an additional confluence, not just that it's in an uptrend, but hey, it is now above the 1 hour equilibrium and it is now holding it as support. That gives me a little more confidence that, hey, we're going to go attack this and we have a decent enough chance to inverse it, right? So maybe we could say, if the trade works out this way, that, oh, I don't want to wait till this 1 hour goes inverse because maybe our risk to reward wouldn't be as good. Maybe I'll just use this 30-minute that's in the same spot. And then I could also use that 1 hour equilibrium being ran through and then turning into support as part of bias that once the 30 went IFEG, that I would have more confidence that the 1 hour would actually close IFEG. All right, so let me clean this up just a bit here. I really like how this candle's forming on the 1 hour. It's closing in about 2 minutes. Even though it is a bearish candle, the low wick on it is telling me a story that, at least for now, this 15 is having a good reaction. See if it can follow through. So we have an overlapping 30-minute right there at that 1 hour, and we have an overlapping 15 in that same spot. So really, guys, I think my eyes, just based on what I see right now, I would really like if this could grind higher, go IFEG here, long here, into these highs, and then run this under, something that makes sense. Maybe under the 4 hour open. And basically our trade is we're going to run these highs before this thing is going to, obviously we're bearish. Now it would be flipping bullish, the 4 hour candle. We wouldn't want the 4 hour candle to flip back bearish. If it did, then chances are this 4 hour isn't delivering up here, and we don't want to be in that trade anyway. So that'd probably be a pretty decent place to kind of uh, consider kind of putting our stop at. General location based on what I have now. The safest place would be obviously underneath this, as this is the liquidity solution. But you could probably squeeze out a little better off. You started kind of hugging that 4 hour. All right, now let's try to, and this part's hard to me sometimes, but I try to look at the other side of the puzzle, regardless of how good one side looks. So to me, what I noticed immediately is in this range in here, I would deem all of this as low resistance liquidity. For anyone that's not familiar with low resistance liquidity, again, not anything that I made up. Um, Homage to ICT. Low resistance liquidity is basically trade like trend line trading. And problem with the trend line, and the reason the trend line fails for people using it, is each time the trend line is respected, right? In this case, it's 5, 6 taps in here. Each time this is being respected, you're building liquidity, right? And if you believe in, liquidity driving the market, you can understand that it is a nice area for price to come and attack a lot of lows, that it can kind of fall through without much resistance, keeping it from going through all of it. So anytime you see a very obvious trend line, especially if it's on, the 15, the 30, the 1 hour, um, watch that, and you'll see a lot of the time that those will get not only swept at some point, but you will see the out how effortless the market runs through those levels once it gets out of whatever pocket of higher resistance liquidity that it may be sitting in right now. How I like to look at it is if I run my first low in my low resistance liquidity buildup, then in this example, it would be like that. Once I run this low, then I would assume that all of these would more than likely get hit pretty um, without much pullback. But getting to that first point is kind of the hard part. And the hard part about trading low resistance liquidity, it's nice because it doesn't give you big spikes back. It will fall through pretty effortlessly. Um, but the problem with it is if you don't get in early, like up here, and you wait until the first level gets hit, and then you say, "Oh, I want to short from here." Problem with that is, like I was just saying, the market doesn't really give many pullbacks as it goes through these low resistance liquidity areas, and it can kind of be hard to find yourself a good because a lot of us like to do a continuation trade like this and short off that pullback, right? It's hard to find those because it will dump through it so fast. Not immediately. I don't want to mislead anyone. If you're looking at the 1 minute chart or something, of course you're going to see a few bullish candles here and there, but I'm saying you're not going to really get like a 15-minute lower high or 30-minute lower high formed probably in between your start and end of your low resistance area. So you kind of have to know that that move is the move, and you got to get on the train sooner rather than later to capitalize on the moves. So this is not really what I would want to see for longs here. I would really want this thing to be now impulsively seeking out that 4 hour opening price and starting to wick at it, to pierce it, trying to get above it, and then ultimately break it. This to me is looking a little stagnant, I guess would be the best word. So for the short side, I think what we would want, I mean, we are, see here. I do see an opportunity for a very cheap short and just in a sense of RR potential. Maybe it makes sense for me to take a stab at. Nice. I took long on EQ. I'm up 500. Liquidity is big. Yeah, I like longs better, to be honest, too. But it needs to start. I need to see some more impulsivity. I really my first big confirmation illuminator is flipping the 4 hour candle bullish. Right? It's opened in the opposite direction as where we would want it to be to close. So we're basically looking for an open, low, high, close, 4-hour candle. You can think of it as AMD if you would like. Basically, the um, accumulation, manipulation, distribution. I just kind of simplify it and I just ask myself, where's the 4-hour wick likely to go and manipulate into? Where at what point of interest? And if I get a good point of interest being tapped off the 4-hour wick, and I start seeing reversal signs, the 5 minute, maybe the 15-minute IFEGs, then I will look to hop in and try to ride that extension of the rest of that candle. So what I would see for potential shorts down through all this low resistance liquidity, that's probably as far as I would take it, honestly. And obviously, this is almost a 5 to 1 RR, which is much higher than I usually trade RR wise. But if it did get into this H1 fair value gap right here, they have it in common on both indices. It is in the premium of the 1-hour Dilling range. Um, and we got, low time frame IFEG to go back down. We could look for that and then just kind of let it run through, scale some profit out maybe at this low, go stop loss to break even, and then hold our runners down into here and assume all these low resistance lows get swept, or we don't have to sit and watch the trade all night. I think that would be my only real opportunity that I would see for a short. And why I would consider that is that would be so you have a um LP, but would basically be a lower high on the 1 hour that we would. So those are my scenarios. Either I short out of this 1 hour or I long off of the 1 hour IFEG or potentially the 30, 15 minute that overlaps that same area. But this is the area that I think I want to transact in. Longs would be going up here. Shorts would be running the low resistance liquidity down to previous day low and the relative equal. I'm sorry, I can't see that. And the relative equal lows at previous day low, and running through the low resistance liquidity right there. Longs, I would be looking more than likely on ES unless something changes. Shorts, I would be looking at NQ based on current structure. Right now, kind of zoom in and see what this is do here. But to me, this this in here, all this chop, not really what I would want to see. Like if this is truly the low of if this is going to be our 4-hour low, sweat liquidity, put in the 4-hour candle low. I would really like to see some, really clean PA going back to that 4-hour open up. But we'll see. NQ has been trending a little more bearish, so I don't want to say that, it can't happen. So ES is now extending into its 4-hour. Very nice. Very nice. So we would want to see the 4-hour open again. We want to see that get pierced. So we have now pierced that one time. We want that thing to continue to get pierced and ultimately start to break. And then we want the same for NQ, which is up here. That would be my first major confirmation that we're on the right path with our idea. So I'm just gonna let this kind of cook for just a minute, see how we shake out. Let's see, we're about an hour and 15 minutes into the 4-hour candle. Um, about 2 hours and 45 minutes left on it, so plenty of time for this thing to um, flip back bullish. I mean, we're only 35 points away on NQ, so NQ can run 35 points without even trying. So I think we're still okay. I think, maybe it wants to come sweep the low one more time because this is looking a little bearish to me compared to ES, but ES may just hold it up. I feel like that's been happening a lot recently where obviously it's not always ES holding up NQ. Sometimes it's uh, NQ holding up ES, but I feel like lately one of them has been really lagging compared to the other. I'm gonna leave that highlighted for everybody so they can make sure they see what we're tracking. I want to see that thing start getting pierced to and Eliminator, how's your long position going? You jumped in that thing pretty quick, dude. You got some you got some cojones. I need a little more confirmation. Here's your we may get us an SMT at this low, and that would honestly just uh that would just add fuel to my long bias. We get NQ to sweep the low, but ES doesn't. Hopefully, it's actually looking like it might bounce here. But we just got a new 15-minute candle. What I would I would be watching the low that the 15-minute candle just made right here. Here, I'll make it black where you can see it good. This low right here, I would be watching that low really close. If that's just a 15 minutes low wick and it starts to buy back up, then you should be okay. But if it starts putting in a lower low, lower and lower, like that 15 keeps expanding, then more than likely it's going to want to come sweep this. That's very good for your long there. See if it'll turn over and start running here. Yeah, ES is looking very good. It is now, uh, now it is wicked. Oh, look at that. Look at that pull back down out of that equilibrium tap. You see that, guys? On ES on the right, tap right at our 1 hour dealing range equilibrium. See how it's pulling away from it? Now, I'm not saying it's not going to go back and retest it. I'm just saying the reaction at equilibrium, as soon as it hits it to the tick, it just shows, man, like ICT isn't to play with if you know how to use it. You can't make that up. Illuminator, do you only trade NQ and ES, or do you trade other futures contracts as well? Yes. Yeah, me too, man. I used to trade more futures markets, but um, the longer I've done this, the less amount of things I trade. So now, like, this is the only charts I really look at in the sense of like intraday trading. I keep it pretty simple. NQ on the left, ES on the right, and I don't really ever change. ES is really lagging behind here. That 15 isn't flipping yet. Still got 7 minutes on it, but I think this 15 is going to tell us a story one way or another. I was trying to see if ES had anything that it want to pull back into. But honestly, it's not very pretty price action in there. See how we closed yesterday. S&P. But you're thinking about it. You get some ES is looking great. Absolutely great. And I like this. I love seeing this wick like this. Why? Because it wicked right down through that 4 hour open and popped right back up. That's to me showing me that it wants to stay above the 4 hours. So now we are officially bullish, back bullish on ES. So what do we have so far? We have high time frame liquidity sweep, actually two liquidity sweeps. Uh, Previous 4 hour candle, Asia low, basically both 4 hour candles, tap of a high time frame, unfilled point of interest, 4 hour opening in the opposite direction of our draw on liquidity, taking sweeping liquidity, tapping, untap point of interest, and now 4 hours. Now flip back bullish. Need to now get above our equilibrium and get started on this fair value gap right here, because that's where my eyes are. We have the previous day high at M. So you got some very interesting relative equals right here. These are the 30-minute like. Yeah, honestly, guys, ES is, I think, gonna frame up pretty well because it's got multiple swing highs that you can. This first one, or the first one's previous day high. That was. Then you could call this like New York PM high, and then this would technically be where Asia really starts technically, but just do a relative equal high there, and then this is our high at 11 p.m. We'll just call this our high. But all of them are 1 hour highs. I think they're all good to aim. Very nice 30-minute candle forming there. Very nice 1 hour candle, 30 minutes left on that. About to get a new 30-minute. We could potentially have a 30-minute fair value gap down here. It doesn't close up. Previous day high. PM high. Relative equal here. Stay. The start of a new 30-minute and a new 15-minute. So we could get that lower wick of those candles coming in right now. We could have this push against us a bit, but where my eyes naturally go is to these lows on a Q. We potentially get some sort of bullish S&P to add to our context. Actually, we already have a bull here. $15-minute. Let's see if it continues to uh, 15-minute S&P. Anybody have another chart that they want to kind of analyze while we're waiting for these to make up its mind? This is holding that 4 hour open so far really well, showing me it wants to be a bullish 4 hour candle, is what our trade idea is set up for it to be. The view is just sitting in limbo right now. Very choppy. I do need to see this market pick up. So we're almost at the 2 hour mark. I mean, in about 20 minutes, we'll be at the 2 hour mark since the candle formed. If we continue to have a lack of volume like this, then more than likely we're going to get a kind of doji or a very small bodied 4 hour candle, which obviously I don't want to be trading on. That's the other benefit of uh, using this approach on top of your trading strategy is it will help you see these doji 4 hours that just go back and forth and kind of chop. Uh, it can help you as you do it more. You'll start seeing them, uh, those types of candles forming way before they close. A great example of that. Alright, I'm gonna give this, I'm gonna let the next hour candle open here in 5 minutes and see if this thing wants to pop for us, but this is not really giving me the clarity that I'm looking for. Trend. Yeah, it's looking like it might bounce. It might get us what we originally wanted. May just wanted to, have that flat that one there. But I mean, honestly, man, these relative equals here with this, and man, that that to me looks really good. But my zone is still the same. I need this thing to get into this 1 hour and at least flip this, maybe this 30-minute right here. At minimum, flipping that 30-minute. 13 minutes left on the 30-minute candle. Mike can get it to end. Could get a little more aggressive with it. Totally up to you. You have to make your own financial decisions. Obviously, waiting on the 30-minute and the 1 hour to go IFEG to enter, you're going to sacrifice some risk to reward. You're a trader that, has wants a very high RR, and you're comfortable, taking some losses to get high RR trades. And you could probably, look at maybe a 5-minute or something in here to use instead. Me need the high time frame to tell me the story. Retesting 5 on ES. NQ still just looking bad, guys. Golly. Pop back over the 4-hour open. Now we're back below it. Wicking at it. I bet what we see, guys, on this 4-hour is a what? So you see that? Like if you wait, if you see that manipulation lower, you put in that lower wick. Now, as you start going back towards that 4-hour, start seeing all this consolidation. I mean, even this is pretty bullish price action to an extent, but it's still chopping and just in a little larger range than in Q, but it's chopping nonetheless. That is a signal to you that says, okay, yeah, the 4-hour did manipulate lower, but that this is not wanting to expand, at least at this time. Now, potentially the 6 a.m. candle could deliver up there. Maybe the 10 a.m. New York a.m. candle does. Obviously, we don't know that. But in the moment, in the session, you start thinking like this, you can see this happen. Because I guarantee it, when you guys are getting chopped up, during whether it's London session, New York AM, New York PM. When you go on there and you take 2 or 3 losses in one session and you're just getting beat that day, go look and see what that 4-hour candle looks like. I bet that it has a very little body. I bet it's done a lot of, back and forth, or it's getting right up to that opening price and consolidating. I looked at my losses and it was like 60, I forget the exact number. I want to say like 63% or something like that of my losses came off a very small body doji or a very small body 4-hour candle or an absolute doji candle on the 4-hour for that session's corresponding 4-hour candle. guys. I'm gonna let this chop around and then hop on for the New York AM. I think if we're probably just building some um, liquidity areas, we'll have this kind of bearish structure. Maybe we get a New York AM, maybe we get something impulsive up here. Maybe you get this tap here that sells it lower, right? Or maybe you get some kind of crazy wick into here, and then you get the 10 a.m. candle to give us this. We'll see. If you're not following the channel, hit the follow button, subscribe button, and so you guys will get notified when I go live on New York AM. Yesterday we hit pretty good trade right here during New York AM. And last thing I'll say, guys, I, some of you are used to people on these platforms getting on here and hitting buy and sell 15 times in 1 hour. I just want you all to know that every trader that's making like big money. Now, I'm not saying scalpers don't exist because they do, and I know that there are people that are profitable at doing that. But for me, that's just not profitable from the way that I trade, the way that I see the market, the way that I've had success. All I'm really looking for is 3 to 5 setups a week during either London or New York AM. I want the highest probability setup I can get. I want all my confluences there. When I push the button, I want to have every freaking confidence in that trade that it's going to hit. And when I do that, I don't get emotional about the trade if it goes in the drawdown a little bit. If I lose, then I'm okay with it and I don't go on tilt because I know all my rules and setup was followed. It just is better like overall for me. So just know like when you see me go live, when you get that notification, just know that I don't go live unless I see a potential setup. Obviously some sessions, will have something like this where it'll chop around for 2 hours and not really give me what I want and I'll just call it. But um, you know, London and New York AM, there's Monday, you know, 5 days out of the week, 2 sessions a day, that's 10. So basically, I'm looking to, fade half of the sessions roughly. That's just an average. Some weeks I do have 6 or 7 trades. The market's really moved. I've had to learn through losses and more losses, sit on my hands more and be patient. And, I want to practice what I preach with everyone that watches this channel. I want you guys to see good habits being formed. I don't want to just flash money and items that I bought. I don't want to, um, be that type of trading influencer. I want to show the realistic day in and day out of being a trader, coming in the market, not seeing anything, sitting on my hands, getting off, coming back in the morning. Up, there's my setup. Hit it, CP, I'm out. You know, that's how um, I believe all traders should operate. But we all have our own strategies. Whatever is working for you, by all means, keep it going, man. Anyway, all right. That's it for me, guys. I will see you guys at 9:30 Eastern time, maybe a couple minutes before, maybe 10 minutes before so for New York AM. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Follow the channel so you get notified when I go live in the morning. And I hope to